What's going on? Before we start, if you can just do me a favor, it would help me out a lot. If you just hit that subscribe button. Over 80% of my viewers are not currently subscribed. If you just check C, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? Vampyr Gaming here, and in today's episode video, we're going to be talking about Blue Purple or BP or What's Up Dog Luffy, and just kind of like the evolution of the deck throughout Asia from when it released in March to about now as they go into OP12, and kind of like how the deck changed and just the overall shaping of the meta. If you're new here, I'm Vampyr Gaming. I create everyday One Piece content just for the everyday consumer and TCGPlayer. So if that interests you, I make content for those wanting to be competitive, market watch, and just a variety of things to really try to help you just, one, play the game as affordable as possible, but then two, be as efficient and hopefully learn something or two. So let's go ahead and dive in. So of course we're going to start off like early OP11, pretty much kind of like March. So I think the big notables here are going to be like we're playing classic ramp. It's to die for was a very common card, and then also like brand new. This is kind of like the discovery phase of the deck. A lot of people are opting to play the brand new Rush Luffy, which still continues to find his way into the deck, but kind of makes his way out and makes his way back in. So let's go ahead and we're going to take a look at some early OP11 deck lists. All right, so just kind of jumping in here, this is one of our earlier deck lists. So you'll see sometimes text like King because you find yourself at 7, then going to 9 before getting to do your full combo, just kind of based on how you ramp. So people are opting for cards like King for value plays, and then of course the decent body as well, but just being able to draw a card. A little bit of removal with the Kyros. We just kind of needed 2K, and so Tony Chopper kind of took that spot. Pudding, some lists don't even play Pudding, but you kind of just have to have one for any open deck list event just to kind of prevent any kind of greed, but it's also incredibly good against green purple Luffy. And with Luffy's ability, you can set this to your stack so you can find it when you need it. So I think you can be a little bit more greedy with those. But then of course we're going to see It's to Die For at 4, and then this at 4, as well as pretty much our main ramp here outside of Bonkure. So Bonkle, and these are our ramps. So not incredibly greedy on the ramp avenue, but of course, you know, the Usohachi, which is the GOAT. Kind of get those blockers out your way. But then we also see this Luffy. This Luffy, when you attack, you trash one card, then you bounce a 4 cost or less to the hand. And he has Rush, but then you also get to give 1 rest to Don, so you can go 7-8. A lot of aggro pressure here, and you can continually do that, but also, of course, kind of help keep that board clear as well, which can be relevant. Belo Betty, not as popular here. At this point in the format, it was really like the discovery phase, and one thing about Asia is they love to play the new leaders, so everybody's kind of trying new things. They're fresh off of Purple Luffy or Green Purple Luffy, and they're like, okay, cool. Let's go ahead and try this out. And, you know, just kind of discovering. So here's another list, of course, and you can see, again, really emphasis on this discovery phase. Even more greedy here in terms of ramp, deprioritizing getting to the 8 Dawn threshold to start using the ability, but focusing more on consistent with, like, let's crash this wedding. You can search for, you know, if your leader has it, you can search for any straw hat and place the rest on the bottom of your deck. But yeah, just a really cool searcher here, and then of course the trigger lets you use it, but we are multicolored. Even playing cards like Boa and this 5 cost Luffy, which is, of course, gives you like 7k leader, and then also swings really strong in the late game as well. Again, kind of seeing this Luffy here, but yeah, like a lot of text, a lot of different things trying to figure it out. You know, the Gum Red Rock for the mirror, potentially Blackbeard as well, because Blackbeard is still a leader, and Blackbeard does show up. I think it's blue, purple, green, purple, and then Blackbeard in terms of just total size of pie for competition and showings and just overall tops. And then kind of like a little bit here. So this is like near, you know, a little bit more experimenting. It's the first time we see Zoro, which is more of like the more refined list kind of just like finds their way to play Zoro Joro, so he becomes like part of the core of OP11. But again, we're seeing Boa Hancock once again, and we're also seeing the search event again. No other ramp, right? Like opting for this and this as core ramp plus the Gear 2. Don't forget Gear 2 is also a counter event, but then of course we see a little bit here with the Sanji. This is Pilaf going for a little bit more value plays, and again still kind of like seeing this Monkey D. Luffy rusher here still, and then we see Gum Gum Jatling kind of ebb and flow throughout his attack choice. If you trigger it off of life, it is incredible, but the deck, as you can see right here, just there's 12 bricks, 14 bricks right here, and then every single event is essentially a brick. Yeah, like you can filter, yeah, you can do this, yeah, you can do that, but yeah. We see a little bit here like the Boa, and then let's go ahead. So this is like really early. Big focus on like the ramp events, a little bit of the Bond Clay, and we see like this Luffy and just a bunch of dabbling with text, like striving for consistency, things like that. Let's go ahead and kind of take a look at the middle of the format, April, when things really kind of take shape. So by the time April came around, they kind of realized it's the best deck in format, prioritizing and all lists essentially adding in Zoro Joro as a main part of that. And then also with it, rise in popularity. A lot of people ask why you play this card right here. This card is a mirror winner. So when you are playing, tier 0 format and everybody's playing blue purple, you want this because that's how you're going to win. And seeing this is going to determine if you win your mirrors. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these deck lists. All right, so kind of kicking things off here, of course, we're going to see these Zoro Joro show up a little bit more, and then we're going to see a couple of different ways to ramp. It's to Die For, still relatively popular because it is a ramp 2, and it really gets you to where you want to go. But we, of course, first list here, out the gate, we see 3 of these Luffys, and then Dracula, Mihawk. Earlier, we saw things like Kyros, just a little bit cards to kind of like help relieve pressure. Again, Belo Betty's out there, Green Purple's out there. This allows you to bottom deck Sanji Pudding while she is buffed, so this continues to allow you to have a way to remove Sanji Pudding because Green Purple again still represented. And then, of course, just pretty decent removal into everything else. You go Sanji into this, you get a little bit of tempo. Same thing like, Linlin's going to tuck it in life. Mihawk's going to put it at the bottom of the deck, but that's 7 threshold. So a couple people experimented with Mihawk during this time. And then we, of course, also see Bagua making its way into the deck. This is another way to ramp. You take the first hit, then you leave 2 up past your opponent. If they go into your Zoro Joro, you can Bagua, save Zoro Joro, ramp 1, then Zoro Joro is going to ramp you another, which can be huge. So it creates a huge opportunity there because typically, you go 3, you go 4. If you're playing the mirror, you don't really have any 4 bodies besides Bond Clay, and you don't want to waste that swing on a 4K. And then, you go 6 with it, with lead, you Bagua, you ramp 1, and then it's your turn again, and you get the ramp once again with Zoro Joro. So Bagua kind of is making its first appearance here, not like entirely sold, but kind of making its way. But then, of course, like there is a small bit, we're seeing things like Belo Betty. We want to play Gravity Blades. We want to play a little bit more removal. Blackbeard, Green Purple, the Mirror. You can play this, get rid of one of their bodies, things like that, relieve that pressure, potentially win you the game. And yeah, so you got your staples. Essentially, the core is kind of becoming Usohachi, Zoro Joro, Bankure, Sanji, Nami. We see a little bit more up on the pudding. We're not as greedy. Katakuri. We're seeing Sanji, Linlin, and then our events, which really just leave us not even too many spots. We've got 6, 8. You've got like 8 flex, 10 if you count pudding. Like 10 essential flex spots. Deck's really starting to solidify itself. And then we look at another one. So again, kind of same thing here. We're seeing those same cards we just mentioned. We also see, so this card starts to make its way in as well, God Thread. God Thread is an OP10 card in which you can KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. This is relevant for Green Purple, and then it is relevant for Belo Betty, and it also lets you ramp 1. So when you get to 5, you can ramp 1, help you get up to 6, going to 8, and then after 8, you play your Katakuri, then you start playing your game, getting your double draws, and then also if you hit this out of life, it ramps 1, And then there is the potential for relevance if you play Linlin on 9, you know, potentially like stacking this because you have things like Nemule, or even just loading up a play for Sanji the turn before, which is what Nami is good for on 7. And then we do also see this Nami make her way into the deck as well as a 2K. This is also the same one as the live action Nami. It was a promo as well. If you have 3 or less cards in your hand, return up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So if you play this when in like end game, it can be relevant, bounce a potential blocker, anything like that. So just those little chump blockers, this card easily can answer it, but it's also just a searchable 2K with Luffy's effect. We do get kind of greedy sometimes, so you can see here, it looks like we're only playing 10 2Ks, and I think I've seen as low as 8, so, you know. And then, yeah, and you kind of see, like, Luffy, 8-drop Luffy starting to fall out. And, yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at, like, where we were ending just like this past month right here. I mean, it's still the format until this Friday when everybody can play OP12 in all events. Some events will run it sooner, but yeah, let's go ahead and take a look and see where Blue Purple Luffy is at right now. So near the end of the format, we actually see more Belo Bettys than we see like Blue Purple Luffys in just the top 16 of Japan CSs. And so with that, we're going to see the rise of things like God Thread. You know, you got to keep that pressure off. If you remove those bodies, answer those bodies before they just Chargagaga you. And then we've got Gravity Blade, allowing you to, you know, on 7, before going into your 9, just remove 2 of those bodies, relieve that pressure. You can go after their board, do whatever you need, but this helps you keep those bodies off the board. Also helps potentially remove any blockers in your way, you know, potentially blocker Nami, anything like that. But Gravity Blade really, I think, finds its way into the deck, and we'll go ahead and take a look at some of these ending OP11. All right, so kind of here we see, you can still sometimes like find a mule. We see a little bit more greed here on the Nami. A little tech for Nosuke, really just searchable 2K. But we kind of, again, you know, we're not seeing the Rush Luffy nearly as much. We're seeing, you know, Gravity Blade. We're seeing Red Rock. It's to die for. Just kind of prioritizing that ramp, getting to where we need to go. And then we look here. And then we're going to see, you know, here's this list. Gravity Blade. God Thread is our ramp. Also the Thunder Bagua. We see Red Rock again. You know, we want to be able to clear these big bodies. Blackbeard's still a thing. Just being able to ensure a body is gone, even if potentially like on 6. Things like that against Sanji Pudding. And then we just see here again, you know, this is kind of, this right here is all of these are just like core deck choice. These also, right? Like these are your flex spots right here. 2, 4, 6, 10. Essentially 10 cards in this deck are flex, and we see here Monkey D. Luffy. Again, you know, this is going to win you the mirror. It's incredibly important, especially when you're playing or considering a top cut. And then also just the value of it replacing itself is incredible. Again, you know, the Bagua, Zoro combo, incredible. Gravity Blade, really good for those matchups. And then we go and take a look here at this, I believe, is one of the more recent winners. And they played 3 Gravity Blade, 3 Bagua, 1 Red Rock. So these, again, like, you know, just filling in those tech spots. A little greedy on the Sanji, only going down to 2 and opting to put in 2 of these choppers. Not even a Straw Hat, so you cannot search this card. But it kind of gives you a little bit of ramp if needed. Like, you know, you go minus. One thing to know is you have to have 8, and sometimes, you know, you go Gum Gum Giant and a Lin. Like, you just don't have enough. So it's important, like, to make sure that you're ending your turn, and this can be that defining factor. If you minus too much the turns prior, to make sure you have that 8 for your effects. And yeah, so this is pretty straightforward. Deck really, like, you know, the deck really ebbs and flows. Right now in OP12, it's like, you know, everybody's playing Zoro, and it's got to figure out, you know, what is the build that's going to be the best into what's currently there. And I think it's, like, again, in the discovery phase on how it's going to combat what's coming at it and what other people are opting to play. But at the end of the day, we have the main core. You know, we kind of talked about it right here. I mean, these, you're going to play all of these, and then you're going to play these 2. And it's really just 10 cards that you can use to kind of combat the meta and figure out what's what. Any questions you have, let me know in the comments below. And I will see you all in the next one. Hit that subscribe.